everyone. I'm Errol Porter, and welcome to Make It in Cleveland. And this is TV20. Of course, our show is brought to you by the good people of Cleveland's Economic Development Department, where we get to show off our movers and shakers here in the city of Cleveland. And today, I'm so excited, we have Joy Johnson, who's the Executive Director of the Burton Carr Development Incorporated. Been serving in the central Buckeye and Kinsman area for over 35 years, and you're making all the magic happen. So you're
trying
here
to.
So how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here today.
Cool. Now tell us all about Burton Carr and the services that you will provide.
Sure. So I always like to explain the origin of our name. We're named after 3 community leaders that served the neighborhood: Lonnie Burten, James Bell, and Charles V. Carr. So a lot of the people in the neighborhood remember those names, especially some of our more seasoned residents. They remember those names, but sometimes people hear the name and think we're a law firm or a CPA or something like that. So I always like to explain, a lot of our counterparts that are community development corporations are named after the neighborhoods that they serve. We're named after people who serve the neighborhoods. So, and like you said, we were founded almost 35 years ago. In honor, and named in honor of them. And for community development, we primarily do real estate development in the central Kinsman and Buckeye neighborhoods on the east side of Cleveland.
Okay, so you help the neighborhood grow. What kind of projects over the years? You've been there a long time. Such a young face, but you've been there for 22 years.
22 years.
So,
I started when I was 12.
Right, you were 12 years old. So during that time, 22 years, you watched this neighborhood grow. What are some of the projects that you were involved in over the years?
So it's the neighborhood very close to where I grew up to, went to high school, went to church, have lots of family there. So I actually remember it as a child, and then to be a part of its renaissance as an adult is pretty awesome. So the first projects that Burton Carr really focused on when they started was housing. So the central neighborhood and the Kinsman neighborhood at that time was home to 1/3 of all of the public housing in Cuyahoga County. So if you were low income, there was a place for you to stay. But if you started to earn more money, got a job and were ready to move out of public housing, you had to leave the neighborhood to find a place to stay. And so the founders at that time said, let's bring the homeowner back to Central. And so Burton Carr has built over 1,000 units of housing, most of them single family and most of them home ownership. So there were streets, I remember as a kid, where there would be vacant lots and 1 house or 2 houses. Right. And now those blocks are full of new homes with families and activity and home ownership.
Now, some of these residents who come in and bought some of these houses, are there programs in place to help them attain home ownership?
Yes, so the programs that help folks obtain home ownership have changed a lot over the years. When Burton Carr built in the 90s and early 2000s, when America was experiencing the housing boom, there were all kinds of programs. People could get up to $50,000 towards the purchase of a house. Former mayor, then Councilman Frank Jackson, who's from this area, had a special grant because he wanted to make sure that people who lived in the neighborhood had the opportunity to buy new. He didn't just want people from outside the neighborhood coming in. So if you lived in the neighborhood, you got an extra $10,000 grant on top of all of the other subsidy. So it really made homeownership affordable. A lot of people moved out of public housing directly into homeownership and paid the same or less in a mortgage than they were paying in rent.
Wow. Well, let's go back. You're doing a lot, and of course, you've been there for 22 years. So some of those visions and as a reflection of what you saw and what you had planned for those neighborhoods. So take us back to when you were younger. Tell us about growing up. I want to know about you. Like, what neighborhood did you grow up in? Talk about growing up in the Fairfax neighborhood and what that meant to you.
Sure. So I grew up in the shadows of Cleveland Clinic in the Fairfax neighborhood. I come from a large family. Both my mom and dad are from large families, and all of them lived in Fairfax. So a very much family-oriented. The house where I lived as a teenager, I had my big cousin, my mom's cousin, so he was more like an uncle, who lived like 4 houses down from me one way. My mom's brother lived about 5 houses down the other way. And so I had a lot of people watching out for me. I didn't really know. As an adult, my cousins will say, don't you remember Johnny that stayed over here? He used to like you, or he wanted to talk to you, and we wouldn't let him. I had no idea that these people were trying, but I had very very protective family members around me. And so I could just focus on the books and focus on my friends and not really, get into a lot of trouble. I think I took it for granted, but as an adult looking back, I see how the community really protected me.
You had whooping centers every other house.
Pretty much. I'd walk one way. By the time I got home, I remember even like my parents' friend was a bus driver, RTA bus driver. And he got on me one day for trying to watch these girls fight. Like, I had people watching me everywhere, whether I liked it or not.
Right.
So
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, get back to the Burten Bill Carr and the funding that helps you all advance, and I know you want to see growth. Let's talk about the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative funding, and how's that helping you?
So the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative was started under former Mayor Frank Jackson, and he picked 3 neighborhoods where he wanted to invest so that there would be a legacy of investment in addition to what had been done in downtown. And so Buckeye was one of those neighborhoods, and back in 2019, Burten Bill Carr was awarded $1.2 million for acquisition and stabilization. So we were able to acquire 13 buildings on Buckeye, and Buckeye is one of the few commercial corridors in Cleveland that is still intact with most of its buildings, most of its teeth, we like to say. And so these are buildings that have the storefronts at the bottom and then either apartments on the second floor or offices on the second floor. So with that 1.2 million of investment, we were able to buy the block and stabilize those buildings. Some of them have been vacant for years. Some of them had illicit activity going on in them, squatters, you name it. Our staff had some interesting interactions going in and out of those buildings, but to stabilize them so that they didn't get further damaged, making sure roofs weren't leaking and that sort of thing, so that we could then start to raise the money to revitalize the buildings and return them to a productive use.
So most of these buildings occupied now with businesses?
No, not yet. But we and everybody's like, what are you doing? What are you waiting on? You bought the buildings. When are you going to put the businesses in there? But some of them have been vacant for many years. So it's going to take more than just a coat of paint to get them back together. And so we've been doing the fundraising to get those dollars to renovate those buildings so that businesses can come.
Right. Now with Burten Bill Carr, you say they've been around 35 years.
Yeah.
And
started in 1990.
You've been there 22 years, and they're still kind of fledgling, if you ask me, when you came in. So like some of the challenges that you incurred while you were there, and let's talk about that and how you all were able to overcome some of those challenges.
That's a good question. We started off, I'll start with just our physical location. So when I first started working with Burten Bill Carr, our office is located in the Kinsman Square Plaza, right next to the Kinsman Party Center.
Oh, yes.
So, and it was a part of an old grocery store. So our storage closet was a meat freezer, but it wasn't freezing anymore, but it was big, like you open it up. Like that was our storage. We had a very small space that we had to be very creative in how we made it work. And then being in the Kinsman Party Center, next to the Kinsman Party Center, if it was a Friday afternoon, the DJ would be over there getting set up for whatever parties were going to happen so we could hear the music. On the other side of us, there was a barbershop that catered to the older crowd, lots of jerry curls, and you could smell the chemicals coming through. I mean, it was vibrant. It was always interesting. I am very grateful for that experience, but that was one challenge, just being able to do the important work of the community in a space that wasn't ideal. So
now, while you were there, did people understand why you were there? Around you, they were around it, but they understand why you were there and what you guys were doing?
Not always. We're a nonprofit and we're ran by a board of directors, and our board of directors were required to have at least 51% of the residents, the 51% of our board members be residents of our community. So having board members from the community helped people to understand what it was that we do, because they could tell their neighbors, this is who they are, this is what they do, here's the services that they have that can help you. But I still think even today, people are not quite sure what it is that we do. And that's okay. I don't think my family understands sometimes.
Well, one thing you guys put in place to help get some of that information out is WOVU. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely, yes. So WOVU is our community radio station. You can tune in on 95.9 FM on your FM dial, or you can visit WOVU.org and stream online. And the OVU stands for Our Voices United. It's a platform not only for Burton Carr to share what we have going on, but for our partners like the City of Cleveland or Metro Health, or you name it, to share what they have going on, and an opportunity for the residents to share their voices and share their concerns and interact. So to unite the voices. But we hear so often that there's so many programs and resources out there, people just don't know about them.
Right.
And radio, it's old fashioned, but it's cheap. It's not going away. Anybody can access radio, and now anybody has access to the internet if they have a cell phone. So it's a low cost way to reach a lot of people and really get the word out.
All right, that's exciting. And they're still growing over there. I know I add the shows every day. I know a lot of people are over there, and that's pretty cool. I'm a radio man myself.
Oh, okay.
So I love that. So,
yeah.
Now tell us about, say once again, long time working there and being able to balance your personal life. Let's talk about that. Let's dig in and you again. Your personal life and how you are able to balance that with what you do.
It's an interesting question, talking about balance in personal life. And I know you asked about me, but it's something that I try to make sure our staff is intentional about doing, because the folks that we hire are very passionate about helping their community. And a lot of them are really excited to have a chance to be a part of the solution. Right. And so it's a job that could easily take all your energy. And then you'll look up and you'll be burned out, and then you're no good to anybody. Right. So what I always just try to remind people is that our neighborhoods didn't get this way in a month, in a week, in a fiscal year, and they're not going to change in a year.
Right.
But let's break it down and identify small wins and celebrate those small wins, because you're not going to be able to solve it all in a short period of time. So it's something I have to practice myself too, because this is my community, and of course I want to do all that I can. As
a leader in your organization, what kind of challenges have you had over the years with that?
Ooh, right. So actually I will say I was a little bit spoiled. So my predecessor, Timothy Tramble, he was the executive director for 20 years and very much a mentor, very much encouraging me to pursue further my education, take more leadership roles. And he just made everybody work hard. He didn't discriminate, man, woman, black, white, young, old. He just has a really strong work ethic, and you just have to do it.
I know that name from that. St. Luke's?
Yes, he's now at the St. Luke's Foundation. Right. Yes, okay. Yes. And so I didn't really have to experience any sort of discrimination in that way. And then Tim was probably a protector. Who knows what sort of things he was getting. But when I became the executive director, the same people that would laugh and joke with me when I was the associate director suddenly had a different perspective and treated me very differently. And it caught me by surprise at first. And so it took some adjusting for sure. But I have to say that I was very blessed up to this point, into the last 4 years, and really just taking ownership of my leadership, recognizing that I won't be like Tim. Right. I have my own personality, I have to do things my own way. And I think once people sort of recognize that, then it was okay. But yeah, I did have some people I was like, who are you talking to? Like, is this the same person? We would laugh and joke, and now I have a title and some authority, and you want to treat me differently, so.
So now, one thing you're a product of Jane Addams.
Jane Addams
High School. We love our young people to see, success. And talk about your education there, what that meant to you, and how you furthered your education in college.
Yeah, so Cleveland Public Schools graduate all the way through, and I went to Jane Addams. I think I went to Jane Addams because I wanted to learn a practical skill.
Right.
I had been in like honors classes in middle school and grade school, and I was like, I don't want to do this in high school. I want to learn something that I can get a job, even though I always knew I wanted to go to college, but I just wanted to learn something practical. And so also my mom worked at Tri-C, which is right across the street, so somehow that made it more appealing. So when I went to Jane Addams, it's a business career school, and so my focus was computer business, which doesn't really make a lot of sense today, but I learned how to use spreadsheets.
Wow.
I learned computer programming, and this is like before Excel.
Wow.
And I learned a lot of very practical soft skills like job interviewing skills, entrepreneurship, they really typing, all of those things that I use every day.
That you can actually use.
That was my goal. Yeah. So it wasn't a traditional high school in the sense of having like a football team and all of that. We did have a basketball team. I didn't really go there for the sports. I went there because it was close to my mom, and I knew I would come out and have a practical skill. The challenge, though, was I always knew I wanted to go to college, and as I got further in high school, they didn't have classes that were advanced enough for me because I had come in with advanced classes coming from honors. And so when I got into the 12th grade, I thought I was going to have to transfer to John Hay. So my choices were either transfer in my senior year or take college classes at Tri-C. So I chose to take the college classes at Tri-C, which helped me in the long run. I was able to transfer those to college, but it was tough. Like, you're gonna make me take these college classes? I don't know. It was a tough decision, but yeah, I don't regret my decision going to Jane Addams because I made great connections, and a lot of the folks who went to Jane Addams are doing awesome things out in the community. Terrence Howard is an alumni of Jane Addams, yes, and he came back to visit when I was there.
You mean Terrence went there, Mike?
It's hard up there.
It's hard up there, Mike. but tell us, that's pretty cool, man. Were you there when Terrence was there?
I wasn't, but he came back to visit when I was there. The movie Dead Presidents had just come out, so we knew who he was. It was kind of a big deal.
That's pretty cool, pretty cool. They had some famous alumni that's going to Jane Addams. Now, talk about what's next for Burten Bell Carr Incorporated. What is next for you guys? What's on the horizon?
Well, just last week, I signed a contract with the City of Cleveland for $3.88 million from the Department of Economic Development for the next phase of the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative. So I mentioned to you the buildings that we purchased, and we need the money to fix them up. So this $3.88 is going to go towards that.
Real quick, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
The process of obtaining that $3.8 million. How does economic development make that a smooth transition?
Very carefully, no. Actually, the money remained from Mayor Jackson's administration. They knew that once we acquired the buildings, we would need some money to repair them. And so I don't know all of the technical terms, but they did whatever was needed to sort of reserve those funds for us. So then under Mayor Bibb's administration, we worked with his economic development team to identify how much funds were left, tell them what we wanted to use them for. And I want to say that was earlier this year when they rolled everything out. And we were like, well, we're ready. We're ready. They're like, tell us what you want to spend the money on. Like, here, we got a whole plan. We literally came to the meeting with a full deck PowerPoint, like, we're ready to go. And we're like, if we can get this before City Council closes for the summer in June, that would be awesome. And Director McNair and his team, they made it happen. And the last session in June, City Council approved for us to get $3.88 million.
That is awesome. Any other ways you all bring in funding for the organization?
Yeah, so City of Cleveland is a big funder. In this type of project, we also plan to use historic tax credits. So there are tax credits available from the state of Ohio and also from the federal government. So there's a process where you have to get the properties registered or designated as a historic place on the National Register of Historic Places. So we went through that process, which makes us eligible for the tax credit. So we plan to use money there. We are partnering with Fifth Third Bank. They've identified the Buckeye neighborhood as one of 9 neighborhoods across the country where they're investing in an initiative called Empowering Black Futures. So they've given us a mortgage on one of the buildings where we plan to renovate and put our Buckeye office there. So I call it the funding lasagna, because you need a little bit of money from this person, a little bit of money from that. When you put it all together and you get a lasagna. So many different places. And I'm probably leaving out partners. And of course, the St. Luke's Foundation gives us money to hire the staff to put all of these things together. So they're also, while they don't have dollars in the building, they have dollars in us to help us bring the dollars to the building.
Thank you so much for joining us here at Make It in Cleveland. It's been a great time hearing about your successes over there at Burten Bell Carr Development, Inc. And before we leave, can you tell everyone out there why they should come to your neighborhood if they're considering moving or starting a business?
You should consider Central, Kinsman, or Buckeye for your business or your next house, because so many investments are happening and you want to get in on the ground floor. So if you want to learn more about us, you can visit our website at bbcdevelopment.org or give us a call at 216-341-1455.
All right, there you have it. Joy Johnson, the Executive Director of Burten Bell Carr Development and Corporation. I want to thank you again and tell you how proud we are of you. Keep up the great work and keep making our city beautiful. Hey, thank you for joining us. We want to thank all the people here at TV 20. We want to thank the Economic Development Department here in the city of Cleveland. And don't forget, you too can make it in Cleveland. I'm Earl Porter. Stay safe, Cleveland.